Sure. Burford is the largest player in the world at providing capital behind litigation. And what that means in very, very simple terms is that we're just like any other asset-based provider. Think of us almost as a leasing company, where law firms have clients today, given the very high cost of legal services and the exploding cost of litigation. Law firms have lots of clients today who either can't or don't want to pay their hourly fees as they go, and they need a financial solution. Law firms themselves either don't want to or often can't, because they don't have a balance sheet themselves, offer that financial solution. And that's where a third party like Burford comes in just the same way that a manufacturer would use a third party leasing company to provide the leasing capital to its business. Well, litigation is a fascinating investment because, first of all, it's relatively high return and it's entirely uncorrelated to the broader stock markets. Our returns are driven entirely by the results of the litigation process. So think of litigation as being on a giant conveyor belt. It moves, it twists and turns, it moves at varying speeds, but it always does move forward, and there always is an exit. And so unlike a private equity or a venture capital investment, we don't have to sell our investments to make a profit. The litigation system provides that for us automatically. And that's an extraordinarily powerful part of the investment thesis. The other part, though, that I think is equally significant is that investors who watch this kind of footage see companies from all shapes and sizes and all walks of life, but they don't see law businesses. And the reason for that is that law firms don't go public. If law firms were public, 6 of the FTSE 100 would be law firms. In the United States, Burford's largest market, there are more than 1 million lawyers generating more than $300 billion of annual revenue. But those lawyers are not allowed to take on external capital. So the only way for investors to play the law industry is through a vehicle like Burford. So investments in litigation, and just about everything about this business, is common sense to some degree. You know about litigation from reading the newspaper, watching television. So you know that when you sue somebody today, you're not in court tomorrow. That's a process that takes several years. And so this is, on an investment by investment basis, a medium duration asset class. That being said, you can look as effectively a leading indicator at the volume of our investment commitments to see what's going to happen in the future. So in 2014, for example, we made more than $150 million of new investment commitments to new investments. What that means is that is setting up the following years, 2017, 2018, 2019, for further growth. That commitment number is about 3 times as much as what we did in 2013, for example. Sure. So Burford is a broad brush financial provider to the litigation market. And really, I know that people think about litigation more in the context of television drama than they do in the context of an investable asset. But all a litigation claim is an intangible asset, just like a receivable or a patent or lots of other things. And what that means is that that asset can provide the base for financing in all sorts of different ways. Not only can we be providing capital that is used, for example, to pay the law firm's fees instead of the client doing that, but we can actually monetize pending litigation or even concluded litigation for a company to be able to use capital for entirely other reasons, business purposes, growth capital, and so on. Well, Burford has had a fairly extraordinary run. We started this business in 2009, and we really started it after the financial crisis at the request of law firms who were being squeezed by clients on the one hand and had no capital source like this on the other. And when we started it, we were enthusiastic about its future, but we have been very pleasantly surprised at just how rapidly it has grown and how quickly the concept has taken off. More than 90% of lawyers today, for example, say that they're familiar with the concept, and almost half of corporate CFOs and general counsels believe that consideration of litigation finance is appropriate in every single matter that they look at. So what the future holds here is really dictated by our client base and the market. We've had explosive growth in areas that we have just launched, and that's a reflection again of client demand for new solutions, new products, and the availability of capital. This process is an asset-based investing process just like any other. We have a very significant team, more than 50 people based in New York and London, drawn from major law firms, large corporations, and we engage in a significant diligence process for each investment that we do. We end up closing basically a single-digit percentage of the things that come in the door, and we do that after extensive and thorough diligence. And then once we've invested in things, we're very active in managing the portfolio. One of the things about investing in Burford that you get is it's always nice to say that you're the largest, but there's a reason that that's important in litigation, because litigation on a case-by-case basis is inherently risky. Nobody should be going out and investing in a single litigation matter. Instead, we construct a very large, widely diversified portfolio, and that's the best insurance against risk here. It does not, and in fact it deliberately does not. We avoid concentration not only in areas of law, but we avoid concentration even down to things like individual judges, so that we get that very broad diversity that's unaffected by any idiosyncratic factor. So Burford started in the United States with a foothold in London because we've always done what's called international arbitration, which is done a lot by London lawyers. Over time, we've expanded to be full-fledged in the UK, and more recently, we'll look at anything from anywhere in the world. And indeed, we get inbound inquiries from all over the world today, including places like Hong Kong and Singapore and Canada and South Africa and so on. Well, I think in Burford's case, because this is a medium duration asset class, what investors are really looking at is how the investments that were made a few years ago are continuing to perform. So Burford is in effect right now in an accelerating growth story because the capital commitments that we've made have increased, which fuels future growth. And at the same time, the investments that we made years ago are coming into their own. So as opposed to 3 or 4 years ago, where Burford was much more of a trust me story, where we were showing people that we were putting money out the door and we were showing them why we thought it might make money for them. Today, we're in a much different position because all of those early matters have in fact shown the ability to make money. And now we're saying, with that base of experience and that track record, we're showing you now what happens if you expand the flow of capital into the space.